Hi everyone, my name is Ari, I'm Dutch and I've learned Russian in the last 5 years. Добро пожаловать на мой канал. In this video I want to talk about why video games are great to learn Russian, also my top selection of 5 great video games you can play in Russian, and in the end I want to talk a little bit about the biggest mistake to avoid when playing video games if you want to learn Russian. By the way, I also got a short email course that teaches you how to become conversational Russian in about 6 months. You can sign up through the link in the description below with your email. Alright, so let's get started. Why I think video games are great? Because video games allow you, first of all, they're just fun to play. If something is fun to play, you're going to be spending a lot of time on it, and it's way easier. And if you then just take a video game that is available in Russian, and you just turn on the Russian sound, because the Russian sound is the most important thing, then it will just be very easy for you to just sit in front of the computer and spend, maybe a couple of hours after work or an entire weekend. Don't completely recommend doing that, but if you're the type of person who likes playing video games and you also want to learn Russian, why not use those two things, like put them together and start playing video games in Russian? Because that way it will be very easy to spend, like, at least, if you spend 1 hour a day, then that's 5 plus or 7 plus hours a week that you're hearing more Russian. And the more Russian you hear, the better your Russian will become, because your brain will just better be able to understand exactly where words start, where words end. And that way, the more input, the better the output. Now, some people may say that, playing video games, if you're just shooting or killing monsters or whatever, then sometimes there's not going to be too much Russian involved. And that's true. That's why the video games that are here in this collection that we're going to recommend now, they're mostly based they have a big amount of story and dialogue, because ultimately that's what's going to teach you Russian. And if you're just, walking around shooting or killing monsters, then that won't help you too much. Oh, one last thing. If you're just starting out playing video games in Russian, and you're also just started learning Russian, then it's very good to start with Russian sound and English subtitles, because otherwise you won't be able to understand anything. If you don't understand anything, like you don't know what to do, and it's going to be very, very difficult to get further, and you'll get bored and tired very quickly of it. Then later, if you're intermediate, you can try just with Russian sound and then with just Russian subtitles. And if you're ready at a very intermediate advanced level, you can just try playing without any subtitles whatsoever. Though with subs, most of the time it's better, since you get it like visual and audio, and you can just understand it better. So let's go over the top 5 video games that I played. 4 of them. The last one I just heard a lot of people recommend, but I haven't played it myself, but I think it's a very good game from the reviews that I read. So the first game, this should be on every single list about Russian video games, is the Metro series. Metro 2033, Metro 2033, and it's a video game about, I think there was a nuclear war somewhere in 2000, the early 2000s, already past where we are now, maybe 2013, and a lot of bombs got dropped all over the world. And the best bomb shelter was, of course, the Moscow Metro. So approximately 40,000 people or so, they survived, and you went into the metro there, and an entire ecosystem and civilization started building up there. And you play as Artyom, and Artyom, he's a fighter, and you just go through the metro because there's a new sort of mutant signalized, and they try to attack the people. You just try to save them, and I really like it because it's a video game. It's just if you play it pretty straightforward, it's maybe 10 to 20 hours, and the story is very good as well. So if you read the books, I highly recommend the books. I also read them. Then you'll be able to connect a lot of the pieces. And it's also cool if you've been in Moscow to be seeing locations in the video game where you've actually been, especially in the metro. That when I played the game was very cool. There are 3 installments of this video game, and all 3 are great. Highly recommend you play them, especially if you're if you want to learn Russian. You're watching this video, so I guess you are. Alright, so the second installment of games that I really liked was the Witcher series. In Russian it's called Ведьмак. And the great thing here is that the second one is such a great story, Ведьмак 2, and the third one is just you can play it for 100+ hours since it's more of an open world. You play a monster hunter who's walking around killing monsters basically. And the great thing about this series is that, well, first you can spend a lot of hours, it's a fun game, but the second thing is that it's from Polish origins, which means that the culture and everything in the game is a lot closer, or the way everything is depicted and is a lot closer to Russian culture than actually to the English one. So if you have played these games before, maybe in English, highly recommend you play them in Russian, because in Russian it just sounds a lot better because it's more fitting to the entire story. Plus there's literally tens of hours of conversations and everything. He also speaks very clearly and slowly, so you'll be able to understand very well where the plot is going, and it's a great practice for your Russian. So the third game is called Skyrim. Maybe you've heard of it. I've played it in English, but I've heard it's also available in Russian, and I just really liked playing the game in English, maybe like 7-8 years ago already. But I just know that many people that play the game, they get so into it, and I know people that have spent more than 500 hours into it. And if you imagine spending on a game 500 hours, whereas you might have well just turn on like one little switch, turn it into Russian. Even if a person would have no interest in learning Russian, just if he's actually, this only goes for young people who are able to spend 500+ hours on a game, just turning one switch, putting on the Russian sound, changing from English to Russian sound, and suddenly you're basically learning Russian for free without any specific efforts, and you just get so much into the game that you understand the language. So I highly recommend that game as well if that's the type you like. You also walk around killing monsters basically. So the fourth game is called Stalker, especially Stalker Tien Chernobyl, Shadow of Chernobyl. You play a guy who, well, there were some, I think it's also some, how do you say it? Well, something bad happened, and now there are radioactive zones in Ukraine, I think, around Chernobyl. Well, everyone knows what happened there. And you play, and because of that, there's specific treasures around this factory, this nuclear factory. You play a guy who goes to risk his lives in order to go there and get the treasure and sell it for a lot of money. There are also a lot of mutants, so you also shoot them. The game is great. It's just that it might have been already a little old, so the dialogue is a little short as well. So I recommend the other games a little more because there's just more dialogue. But on the other hand, this game has more. It's also made from Russian origins, so there's more, Russian stuff like that in there. So the fifth game is called Utopia, I think. It's a horror game, but there's a lot of dialogue in there, and I haven't played it, but I read that the reviews, people either love it or hate it. So you can try that one as well. All right, it's already becoming a long video. So that was it. If you like the video, I'm sure you also love my free email course that teaches you conversational Russian in about half a year. You can sign up below through the link. And one last bit of motivation that I just wanted to give about this entire subject of playing Russian video games is that if you're watching this, chances are very big you're already playing video games, because most people do nowadays. So why not, if you're spending a lot of time every week, every month, every year playing them in English, why not find a game that's available in Russian so you can just learn a lot of Russian basically for free. So that was it. Hope you enjoyed the video. Goodbye, and wish you a lot of luck learning Russian.